Hi everyone, this is working SIG1 working group 4 meeting, mainly for the SDK and Helms and all those things. So this meeting is, as I told in the Slack community, that it will be short. Mainly, we want to focus um, on the point what we discussed in the morning. We had a kickoff meeting started by Stephen today for the creation of a SDK, the overall Nephew SDK, which has broader views, broader requirements, and many other things which needs to be done. So overall, it is going to help the onboarding process, the life cycle management of operators, and creation of operators, deployment of operators, creation of packages as well, and all those things. So Stephen has demonstrated or outlined all those things in the Monday night meeting, and this is what the document he has. I have shared this document to everyone in a Slack channel, right? I hope you have access to that and go through these user stories. What we want in this meeting is that more and more participant for the creation of SDK. So Stephen has already outlined few of the tasks which people can take, right? And start POC, start the concept and design document for each and every component which he has outlined. Maybe I'll give him time to, if he can run through this document or things again if he wants. Otherwise, there's already a YouTube video should be available. I haven't seen that being uploaded in YouTube as of now, but we'll see that. So that's the agenda of the day, to have more participant for the creation of this SDK. So Stephen, would you like to take some time to go through that, or what do you say?
Are folks interested?
Yeah. I mean, you can just
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I see this also consists Helm onboarding, deployment, and other things. So it is touching on that point also, how to do that. Maybe that's a different approach than whatever we have taken in Samsung SDK. But this also has it. So in general, this is going to be a one step for one stop solution for everyone who comes new to a NFO and want to develop some features, or want to deploy his NF, want to create packages, want to create operators, and all those things. So this should become the one-stop solution. So that's what our understanding is, right? So if people are interested,
so that's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is any network function vendors or network functions project owners can come in and take these tools, and it contains all the things that they needed. I mean, all the sub tools that they needed to actually create onboard the network functions onto Nephew.
right? So would you like to give these features on the user stories again, or what do you say? We just call out for the people to participate, have a contribution on that. What do you say?
Yeah. So let me see. Hopefully, a lot of the folks on the call has already. Well, you and Liam already on the call last night, and then I think most of the folks, Wim for sure, were in the SIG2 meeting when I presented this.
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Okay. Right.
So I think we don't have to jump through the user stories.
Right.
But then what we actually came up with last night, my time, is there are areas where we can, interested people can actually come in, interested contributors can come in and start digging into. And they basically the set of areas that are outlined in the same document. So first, explore whether or not we want to use operator SDK or queue builder even to be something that we want to wrap around and then becomes part of that tools. The link. Yeah, let me give you the link.
What would be the alternative, Stephen?
So one thing that we're not considering for sure is writing our own SDK for operators with, like, say, control runtime. Then I think that's just reinventing the wheel too much.
Yeah,
So
correct. So that's why I'm asking what would be the alternative. Yeah.
there isn't any, for what I know. So interested contributors can come in and present a different alternative if you want to. But then for now, for all I could see, you either wrap around Operator SDK or wrap around KubeBuilder. That would be the best way to do it. But then again, if whoever's interested to do this area can do the investigations and come back and tell us whether or not that's the best way to do things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the idea of that is when someone instantiate whatever the CLI things that we're going to do, and to say I want to create a operator, a NFO NF operators for UPF, and then it would then create enough code. If I would imagine most people have KubeBuilder experience on the audience, so when you do the create API, KubeBuilder init, KubeBuilder create API, it generates some code, main.go and the reconciliation, the beginning of the reconciliation loops, and then you can start adding your logic in there. So the NFO piece takes a step further, and the reconciliation would be reconciliation against a NFO custom resource, the one that you pick. So UPF would be UPF deployment. And then even taking a step further, maybe we'll just creating stubs so that hopefully developers would just have to implement the stubs. So that's one thing to think about. And then also by extension, they also create the reason why we have to preserve a KubeBuilder or Operator SDK inside is because we fully expect any network functions to have extension CLDs. So we want to give you also the ability to create your extension CLDs, which is basically just the normal tools. You'll do that using KubeBuilder or Operator SDK anyway. So we'll preserve that plus the NFO piece. So that's one area. So investigate and then do a POC off of that. So the end goal of that POC, I think what Liam, Sandeep, and Antu and I agree on is maybe in the kickoff beginning we'll do like a 1 month sprint, quote unquote, and then by the end of say September we'll converge, or before then actually we'll converge and take the pieces together and then start presenting it to mainly the NF vendors community, actually more than anyone else at this point. So that's one area. And then I think Sandeep said that he may be interested in this, but then I'm going to kick off a doc where interested people can sign up, and then saying that we're taking this piece and go ahead and do it. You don't have to decide right now in the meeting or last night's meeting. No, we can. I'll start a doc. Dennis didn't show up anyway, so I still need to ping him to see what he's interested in. The second one,
I have a prototype already, Stephen.
Oh, you do?
If you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
that would be great. That would be great.
I need to tailor it. I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah, it would be. I need a bit of time to tailor it probably to the use case.
Yeah, that would be great.
The whole idea is not to make it so much time, but I have something that we can use.
Yeah, for those who hasn't actually worked with Vim, when you have a proposal, most likely Vim already has an implementation. So it's usually the case when you propose something that Vim already is gonna do the work. Manufacturing.
No. I'm just saying I will show a proposal.
It's okay.
A proposal.
Yeah, go ahead, Fiatra.
Yeah, just a question in relation to the operator SDK. Like we're still kind of, I would call it investigation. Yeah, you could call it a POC, but so we're still kind of looking at that at the moment. I'm just wondering what value is that?
My understanding is you're looking at it at the perspective of Helm onboarding. So which is great. That would be one way to do that. And then you have already given some data points. So if you continue on that path and give us more data points and see whether or not, so if the choice by Vim or someone else or Sandeep is to use Operator SDK as a core, then you get that as part of it, but then you also get that with a pretty high level of limitations. And then we also have to create a story where you onboard the Helm charts. Maybe they're creating the values.yaml CLDs, but maybe that is not what we input. We still input. So we may actually add that part of that as an extension, a CLD, or we would like to get the NF deployment parameters and then fill out some part of that values.yaml. So there's still some work to be done, even if we choose to use that. But then for now, I think it's too early to say, definitively that we're going to use that.
Yeah, I guess what just to give you a very high level, but yeah, at the moment what we're looking at doing is to use the Operator SDK to deploy an instance of the AMF into and to integrate that with the, and maybe Vimeo will probably point out that this won't work, but to integrate using the Operator SDK to deploy the AMF section component into and marry those with the existing Nefio components, so that's kind of where we're looking at the moment. But there are, as you said, there are limitations in terms of what
limitations
the
on the
Operator
Helm charts,
SDK,
but then
well, the Helm
some,
charts and also the SDK, in terms of
there's
exposing
also
the values.
there's still the little thin layers that are missing, where the Operator SDK generates the CLD for values.yaml, but then the existing Nefio logic is generating a UPF deployment. So there's some reconciliations between the two that you have to do. But that is a really good piece to do.
Okay, no, we'll continue what we're doing, and we'll hopefully have some value. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. No, that's great. That is good.
Because I think maybe a clarification, Stephen. For me, you call it Operator SDK, right? I think the main component that is in there is controller runtime, right? So you basically have controller runtime, and then Operator SDK uses that, and KubeBuilder is basically generating, scaffolding a project and generating the resources based on that. So there is a difference between talking about Operator SDK and controller runtime. For me, they are two different things. They are related, but
they're different.
Same.
Yes. Yeah. So it is, in theory, you can build a Nefio Operator SDK, uses controller runtimes, and do your own logic for scuffling, and so on.
Yes.
And then that seems like a pretty far-fetched approach, and reinvent the wheels too much. I mean, again, the contributor can come back and tell me that this probably is the best approach if he or she thinks so. But then I wouldn't say this is like a best path forward. But then contributors are welcome to investigate. Otherwise, if you use that, then if you use the wrapper out of this, some of the it's basically seeing what's the best path of like integrating Operator SDK or KubeBuilder, and then obviously a POC that would create a reconciliation loop that's already watching Nefio CLs. So that's one part. And then as Fiatra said, in a Helm installation piece, if we go into that path also, then it isn't just by default using it, but probably have to be integrating, and also making sure that Operator SDK can support certain more complex Helm charts. And we have enough NF function vendors here to kind of give us requirements too on Helm. But then we're not on Helm yet, so let's not jump there. The second area would be the lifecycle management of the operator. The lifecycle management of actually the operator. So one of the things that we probably would have to do out of John alluded to that yesterday too during SIG meeting, is that the Nefio SDK needs to have a packaging tools inside. So for obvious reasons, because when you created an operator, we have to package that operator. And then I make an argument that you have to, if you have that tools, you also package the network functions. Because this is the tools for you to create the network function vendor specific extension CLDs. And then we need to have those CLs in the network function package anyway. So, and then we have a packaging tools as part of this SDK. So we'll include this. And by saying so, then this tools would also ensure that the versions are being embedded somewhere inside the packaging, such that in a Nefio system on management cluster, there probably needs to be some sort of controller that cross-check if a operator A, network functions are compatible, and B, are they compatible with the management clusters, whatever NAFIO cout they were expected, the specialization logic is expected to output should agree with the operator also. So we need a lifecycle managing piece, which is actually a NAFIO, mainly a NAFIO system piece that sits on management cluster. So I go ahead.
You will be using so there'll be some sort of wrapper over the KPT packaging tool, you're saying?
You can so this is packaging, the next area, packaging. Yeah, I would imagine so, because CAP today, from what I could read, only does creation of package. So our vision is it has the ability to update and keep on adding into the package. So we would like to either extend CAP, which you felt welcome to do too, or from our side, we basically wrap the CAP to at least for the creations, and then we somehow do the updates using our own tool chains.
Yeah.
And then there's a link between that. Wim has something to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we are using it already, some of it, but it's far from perfect at the moment. But we use it. What we did with John is we created. So basically, it's not doing everything what you said, by the way. So what we did right now is one of the problems that we always had from the beginning was today, what if you look at the Cube Builder scaffolding file, right? What you do is you basically generate customized resources, right? But if you look if you build a CAP package, that's a bit different, right? So I created a tool. I'm not saying it's perfect, but to be able to, instead of generating customized resources, you basically generate a CAP file, a CAP package from with the tool. So we basically, it's not doing the full lifecycle thing that you said, but it basically generates a CAP package from a QBuilder based or operator SDK based resource. So, and why did I do it? Is because, okay, at the end of the day, for us, we manage CAP packages, right? So not customized file. And so basically next to the tool is open source, right? So you can actually have a look at it. I can do a demo if you want, but we are using it in some of the projects. We are using it to generate the CAP packages already. So with it,
that's definitely a good starting point. There's no reason to reinvent stuff.
And it's far from perfect, by the way. So there is lots of stuff to be improved. But I'm not saying that that's the one we have to use. But what I'm trying to say is that there is something that does something.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, if something already works, then we probably want to build on top of that instead of reinventing.
But it's basically an extension on CAP. I always, because I discussed it with the CAP team a year. There is an issue open I said, for me, this should either be a CAP tool or a NAFIO tool. I care where it goes, or we can discuss the principles and stuff like that. So,
no, I mean, you're also welcome to do CAP contributions, but then make sure that we have a hook on the SDK to allow you to do the
But
work.
for me, we had a problem company-wise that we were not able to contribute to CAP basically.
I see.
Because of the license, but that's being resolved. So that's going to be.
It's supposed to go to CNCF at some point. So
yes,
hopefully that.
Yeah. So Liam has his answer. Sorry.
Yeah,
Liam, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it anyway, Wim. If you could maybe take a long, if you could make time maybe to take a long session and go through that
tool,
to go through the functions, the CAP function building thing that you did in, if you could step through the code, because I know you did once or twice before.
Yeah, that's still a different thing.
That is a different thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's still a different thing. So
but it is something that we also want to integrate into the SDK in general. So because obviously adding management cluster logic is also part of the NAFIO SDK. I mean, it's not so much
proposal.
But
my POC that I will do is basically you will be able to use some of the functions as an element in your runtime, basically. So you basically can reuse them.
Okay.
So, Wim, are you using CAP as a wrapper inside your tool, or is it something?
Yeah, so
It's
I
a
do,
wrapper of
yeah,
tasks, basically.
because there is ISO like kept in it, right? Is basically generating the I don't reinvent that. I only build tools that go beyond ISO. What kept doesn't, yeah, what kept doesn't do right now is generating that package, right? That we need out of CRDs and out of, so you need to create a deployment, you need to create services, you need to create certificates, you need to create potentially validation webhooks, depending on what you do, right? So that's what it's targeted for. And it uses the same approach as I kept had, is it uses actually KRM resources to do so. So you basically say this, for example, you want a service, right? So you basically want a service for your deployment. You basically create a service resource with a set of parameters, and then it will generate the respective resources. It's almost the same as so the way I look at it, so today when you scaffold a cube builder package, you basically generate the make file that gets a number of tools that basically sets up your customized things. So under config, you have a bunch of customized resources with the patching files and what have you, right? So I do that piece, that equivalent I do for using them kept instead of this config file. That's basically how you have to look at it. But for example, the starting point is I have to generate a kept package. I use kept in it, right? So I didn't want to so I could have done two things, or incorporate that into the tool, but at the moment, and that's basically okay, if this is approach that we like, I was struggling with myself. Do I embed it into the tool or not? So I kept it outside for the time being. But I believe some people will say put it all in and not. But the way we use it, or at the moment we consume it, is that okay, in the make file you do first kept in it and then you use the tool basically. So but we could argue that you have to integrate it if we take that approach. But so that's why I'm saying is it's far from perfect, and it hasn't really been discussed with many people so far. But what it's doing, that's basically what it's doing.
Okay. So if we use that, we can get away with the cube builder approach as well. Is it what you're saying?
Yeah.
No,
So
that's
so here
different.
is so the way you look at it in cube builder, you scaffold so you scaffold a bunch of resources basically, and it's a pluggable framework actually, cube builder, so you can extend it if you want, right? And at some point I have been investigating it, but I never went so far. So you could do a plugin, let's say Nefio plugin, that generates the Nefio SDK. So you keep so you keep the pieces that you want from cube builder, but you could basically say, I don't know, I'm making an example. You say, I don't want this config or I don't want this config piece. I want to have a kept package, right, instead. Or you want both. That's another option. So you can extend it with a plugin, and then you scaffold the pieces that you want. I didn't go there so far because the way I solve it for the time being, I scaffold a make file that has these things inside. So and that could have been done through a plugin, but I didn't do that so far. So that's why I'm saying it's far from perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is a good case for the demo. When we see the demo, we'll have more understanding what are the capabilities and things. So I think
I can do a demo next week for that.
Yeah, I mean, cube builder, for one thing, cube builder doesn't package anything, so obviously that's different.
It does. I think it does, Stephen. It does, because it generates a manifest. If you do make manifest, you get all the manifest.
So you get a manifest, but then that's
which are your resources that you have to deploy, right?
You have an operator deployment manifest, that they generate.
And
they have a CLD loading piece, and then but then it's the things of like dependencies and everything is not managed.
No. And by the way, I'm also not doing that at the moment. That's why I'm saying that's not there. So just to be clear.
Okay, sorry, Liam.
All right, Liam.
Yeah, just I think it would be really good if we could get as many people on board, working on this as soon as possible, because so that we get the synergy and get lots of eyes on anything that we do, so that we can we can all work together. Yeah.
Yeah. So Liam, what I propose for the packaging, I'll do a demo next week, right? And then I can actually give you a link to the code already, so there is some descriptions on how it works and
That'd be great, Chip. Okay.
So we can do that. Yeah. It's still on a private rep. It's my own repo at the moment, so it's but you can we can if we agree about it, we can take the code or piece it apart or something like that. It's all possible.
All right, that's great, actually. Okay, so we'll have a demo next week, and but in the meanwhile, we'll just look into that.
Yeah, if there's any design docs as well, then that you could share, that'd be great,
Yeah, I'll share what I have so far. Sorry, Steven, I interrupted.
Nope, no problem. We should, I mean, if we have something already, then we should iterate on that.
I mean, there can be other proposals, right? So let's be creative, right? I'm just saying I did something. That doesn't mean it's still what we should use.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And so after this, we have to find a way. So my experience, as I talked about last night, my experience working with network function vendors they either already have operators or they're in the middle of actually building operators. So it'll be like disrespectful, I guess, that we're thinking that network function vendors do not know how to write operators. So there's a good chance that the more likely scenario is the operator, the FEO SDK needs to be creating things where you can integrate with the existing operators or some other config modules that the network function vendors have, and have something that ease up the onboarding while we're using the existing pieces that they do have. So that would be one area, which is something like I've done something with an integration of a proxy operator. I think Tau has something kplug that we may be able to explore. So this is one area. And then we talk about packaging already. So the document has my own vision of what the packaging tools have. So if the idea is the package can get more and more specific, and then by basically adding more and more resources, and well, potentially controllers or CAP functions. The idea would be something like, I have a 3.5GC UPF. Another package would be taking the 3.5GC UPF package and then create an updated package that is 3.5GC UPF for Red Hat OpenShift. And then a telco would take that with higher SI probably, and take that and say, 3.5GC on OpenShift for my West Coast region X here, because the networking is using, say, Cisco and Juniper and so on. So they can start adding more things into package, and it becomes a package where it's 3.5GC on OpenShift for your particular network. So the packaging tools eventually would hopefully be able to do this. That's the sort of vision.
So Steven, here I have a different perspective. So my view here is that this should, in my view, that should not be the SDK.
The SDK should allow them to keep on adding on top of that.
No, because so let me explain what I mean, right? So is that okay? If you look, okay, in an ideal scenario, right? Or in maybe the dream is this, right? Or at least from my perspective is this. We generate a package, let's say on the management cluster, right? As a start. And in that package, we express requirements to the infra, okay? That vendor has on that specific scenario. So for example, if the deployment uses OpenShift, my view is that the thing that the operator will get is that specific stuff, and the system should automatically adapt to it. So in other words, we should not necessarily build in things that are specific to that environment. The system has to sort that out. And that's where the infra to NF dependency are important. And that for me, not necessarily an SDK problem. Maybe we have to put in a hook in the SDK.
So there are different mechanisms of doing so. I think
yes.
Back then when Arwen actually started writing the day of the life documents, we actually had discussion on this too. Actually, you were involved too. and then we said there are two scenarios. Like one of them is the Nepio system is smart enough to understand the dependencies on the target because they know the target cluster is this, and then type is OpenShift, and therefore automatically go fetch an OpenShift package or something like that. And then that's certainly one way. And then we would have to go figure out the expression of cluster to a cluster type, a cluster nature or whatever. But alternatively, there is another more static way by saying that I'm integrating things I already tested. I already tested this network functions on this cloud platform for this network. And then for me is I would like to create a package that basically contain all the resources that are needed to make any variants off of this. And then we want to provide that ability.
But that's status quo in my view, right? So that's the reason why I'm let's say debating is because that's status quo. That's why we have 1,000 values files in the Helm charts. You see, that's why I'm more questioning, because if you do that, then you'll have a gazillion of parameters that will be specific, and I think we have to fight that somehow. Or at least that's my
well. There are different custom resources inside the package, so those resources get handled by different controllers. Even if you do dynamic fetching of the needed inputs.
Yes, but for example, the example is OpenShift, right? So that's infra at the end of the day, right? So as such, I think in my view, the ideal scenario is that the vendor basically comes up with, okay, I need this, then the specific environment will say, okay, this is satisfied to use an OpenShift, and he will give you the OpenShift specifics, and that's it.
Yeah, but then at the end, the OpenShift would still have an OpenShift package, which contains all the infra initialization things that are specific to OpenShift. And then so
what I'm trying to say is that we want to go to a model where the operator doesn't need to care, right? That's where I'm getting.
Oh no, not the operator. Nepio has to care. So this is Nepio SDK.
Yes, yeah.
If someone has done the legwork of qualifying a particular network function and a particular versions that works in a particular version of cloud infra on a particular network setups, then they should have a freedom to basically bundle that as a vertically integrated package. And then fill with conditions where unless different controllers will be able to resolve the parameters, this is not a deployable piece yet. So this is one of the idea. I mean, it's not the only way you do infra, obviously. Infra.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that the problem statement I agree with, but for me, it's not necessarily an SDK problem statement. It doesn't necessarily is associated with the SDK. In my view,
the packaging tools could be. That was the point. The packaging tools could be when someone has the SI is the last guy.
But that's a different. Just to be clear, in my view, that's even a different packaging tool, right? Because so here is so at least the tool that I shared is basically a packaging tool to package an operator, right? That will be deployed on a workload. Actually, any operator that you build, you basically can generate this package, right? So that is not. So basically, that is generating a package for the deployment of an operator. Okay. There is a second package that we have in Nepio at the moment, which is the packages that we are using to that contains the let's say, or that's where we specify, for example, the requirements towards the infra, right? That's what we are doing right now.
No, so even beyond that, so the SDK for sure has to be able to package a network function vendor network function package. So FreeFive-GC UPF package, which is the example package that we put right now on FreeFive-GC packages. Those things should be auto-generated because let's say FreeFive-GC has
that's what the tool that I shared does basically, right?
Yeah, so it does extension, which is one package. The package is FreeFive-GC UPF. There's a FreeFive-GC operator package, which will also be generated. And then the argument here is the operator package is operator, so forget that. The FreeFive-GC package, someone should be able to take that and say, I want to update this package by including that I've already done the work to make sure this runs on this version of FreeFive-GC UPF runs on OpenShift version XYZ. And then I've done the work. I know what's needed, so I'm adding those resources, and then they can bundle that if they have a choice. They don't have to. They have a choice to say I want to bundle a FreeFive-GC version 3.1 on OpenShift 1.5 package, and then someone can take that and say that I want on this network environment I would also want to add this set of resources, so that for you to fully qualify.
So the discussion here, is that for me, it's either an extension of the tool or not, but this should be expressed in requirements that package has towards the infra. That's what I'm debating. So it should not add those resources. It should add the requirements that package has towards the infra.
Yeah, I'm a little bit with Wim here that I don't think that this can be automated with a tool because you're validating and testing it on, say, different platforms, right? So the tool, of course, package whatever resources you put in, but there should be a place where you can put all these infrastructure requirements in, right?
And we can create a tool maybe for that, Tal, right? So I think we can create a tool maybe to say it's infra OpenShift or and then it makes it easier to build that package. So, but I'm more of the fact that
I'm with you, Wim. I think we might be going a little bit too far ahead here because the bigger topic here is infrastructure management.
Yes.
Which is a very, very big topic. I was hoping in a way that in R2, this would become one of our themes because we kind of ignored it in R1 or glossed over it. But probably we have too much on our plate right now. But this is a big topic that needs its own design. And really going back to the principles of what we're trying to achieve in terms of Nefia, what his role is, because every cloud vendor, and Google as a cloud vendor, has its own set of tools and philosophies, even for managing edge clusters. So Nefia, I think, has to be very unopinionated in how it approaches that, and very abstract and very decoupled. We don't have any design for it quite yet, except for what I would say very simply did in R1 with requirements, and we're kind of satisfying them, but we're satisfying them in a very hard-coded way. So I would say let's maybe table this discussion of what to do with the requirements later, because we don't have a good design for infra.
Yeah, right. So this is not something I said you have to support from day one, but it's definitely, I would imagine, able to modify the package using the SDK. It would probably be a thing that's supposed to be done at some point.
Sagar, you're on the next.
Yeah, Sagar.
Yeah, we just want to ask Tal or Wim, by the way, if we try out different, cloud vendors, let's say OpenShift or I don't know, or Google Cloud or Azure, I don't know. But let's say in OpenShift, they need some more, because of security, they need more resources to be created. That means the operator has to be modified. So all the operators should be written in a way that they should run on every single infrastructure.
No, I mean, see, what I'm trying to say is that dependency, right? Or what I'm trying to say is that the resolution of that dependency doesn't necessarily reside in the operator, is what I'm trying to say. It might see the result of that resolution, the operator, but it will not be responsible of resolving it necessarily. And that's the problem that we have today, right?
So yeah, so it's probably not the network function operator. Yeah. So for sure so again, this tool is not for just generating operators. It's supposed to be ways to make sure that a lot of the network function vendors problems are resolved. And then at the end, there may be different personas that are using the tools for their own deployment purposes. So obviously, you can make an argument that maybe we create other tools for different purposes, but then for now, it's a one-stop shop. So we making that proposal. Again, we don't need to do that for R2 or whenever the first release of the tool is, but it's definitely something to keep in mind.
But what I think we are discussing with Tal, I mean, I think Tal and myself are a bit on the same page, is that this is a bigger discussion. It's not.
It's a much bigger discussion for sure. Yeah.
We first have
But then I also suspect that one of the possibility would be statically input.
Yeah.
When a
but even in my view, Stephen,
Uh-huh.
both. If you do it, if we let's first discuss the design, but then it shouldn't matter whether it's dynamic or static. That's where I'm trying to get.
And then at that point, one of the requirements would be probably pumping to here to create it. But then again, it's okay.
Yeah, correct. I think what I'm trying to say is
let's put that discussion somewhere else first.
Yeah, let's first flush out the whole framework, and then building the tool would probably be easy in my view, because I think at first we have to agree on the framework, I think.
Okay, so see, the user story which Stephen has mentioned has many things in it, which can create bigger perspective or bigger design. Each of them can have its own design. So what is the next step is what we're looking here. In the morning also we have a similar question. What is the next step? That means what we decided that we're going to start taking, involving people, right?
Yeah.
To take one by one stuff, like what you discussed, Wim and Tal is one stuff on its own.
So this SDK isn't resolving the infrastructure problem. I'm just saying that this is one possibility where, you don't have to do it now, but then have to be aware that the SDK could be used to combine packages into a bigger packages or modifying package to include other resources. So I think that's probably a decent requirement, but maybe not even for your first version, but then at least it's something to keep in mind as you perhaps use Vim's tools or something, that maybe that's some of the extensions that we have to do moving forward.
Yeah.
But then, so that's a good segue for next step. As I said, I'll start a doc, and then folks who are interested sign up for a particular area, and then see which direction we're going to go, and then the full direction of where the SDK is supposed to cover and things like that.
Yeah, as you mentioned,
we integrate.
Yeah, we need to specify what is the topic which we're taking. Like, for example, whatever discussed infra thing is one topic, the creation, the packaging, right? The compatibility of the other operators and other topics. And those topics you can mention so that we know who's working on what, so that it is easy to track also. And based on that, people can come up with the design documents and all those things, the POC and all that. Everything can be parallel then.
First thing to do is a bunch of POCs to ensure that all of this could be done in a particular way, and then get feedbacks from the users, which in our case the users are NF vendors, which is great because the team consists of folks from Samsung, Ericsson, and Nokia. So we should get a lot of feedbacks from network function vendors,
right.
and then see what they're comfortable with in terms of onboarding. What do they actually expect out of an onboarding tools? And then we'll build it based on their requirements.
Yeah, that's great. I think sounds good to me. We can move in this direction, I think, and that should take us to a good place. And for the next meeting, we'll have a demos and all from Wim and others, right?
I shared the GitHub already, so you can already have a look.
Yeah,
and I'm not. Just to be clear, it's far from perfect, so it's it's there's lots of room for improvement and probably lots of people.
Yeah, neat starting point, and we can even validate based on our user story what we have, whether it's conforming to that, and people can have their opinion on that. That to start with that or something else. Or so it's a good starting point for everyone, right? So I'll post that also in the Slack if you have not posted, right? Okay, then I think that I didn't want to take much time today. So that's the direction which we're going, and if everyone agrees, then we can close on to this meeting if there's no other question. Because we know what's the direction. We have decided the document will be shared, the POCs will be there, the demos will be there, right? So any other question? So where have you posted the link, Wim? In the chat or somewhere?
Both in the chat here as well as on the Slack SDK.
You put it on discussion SDK. Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, I think because we probably. I mean, the question is how we operate. Is should we put all the Helm and SDK or in one, or should we? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah,
For me, ideally, or my personal view would be, or what I would like to achieve is that the SDK has a Helm capability, right? So it's just part of,
yeah, it's mentioned there in the one of the topic. I saw
yeah,
that.
I think so. But my point is more organizationally. How are we, let's say, discussing? Do we put it all in the discussion SDK, or do we continue both? Or that's a bit, the question. Or depending on the topic.
So Helm is a completely different discussion right now that
right.
you know I'm sort of involved but not too much. But then if the community converged, and particularly Fiatra is doing a lot of work on this, we have something to show and then some data points to present, then we can try to get into the Helm the discussion and then tell them that this is what could be done by the Nephew SDK. There's one options for Helm integrations, and that would be the recommended option actually for Nephew. But that would likely be the outcome. So we should involve the Helm people. The Helm folks are doing a lot of different things in different directions. So we shouldn't stop them. But then there is one opinion anyways from the Nephew SDK side, because obviously we want to integrate it as an SDK, as part of the SDK, and then Fiatra is working on it, and then when we get more data points, we'll present what we can do, what is the limitations that we have if you do it this way, and then whether or not the vendor communities on the Helm integration communities of folks would be willing to take that, or maybe they're adding more stuff like adding Flux supports on the back and things like that. If they want this, we'll see how we can gradually add that into the SDK. But now that there is an opinion way to do it, which is Fiatra is actually doing investigations, and he's been doing a great job. So we'll let him continue.
Continue the way which we are continuing right now, and as and when we converge, we'll do that, right? So Fiakra, you have any questions?
Yeah, Fiatra. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a kind of an admin type question before your statement there, Stephen. But I think I'll stick with that. But in terms of the discussion SDK meeting has been scheduled for, I think it was yesterday at whatever. Is that going to be a weekly
recurring
thing? Yeah.
If the time works for everybody, I would be okay to have that. Maybe not every week initially.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
Should we converge?
Go ahead.
Should we converge all the meetings? Because for me, personally, I would say that even the Helm fits into this meet. It's all the same meeting somehow, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
Helm doesn't.
Yeah, I agree to the Wim that there are a lot of convergence like Helm.
There's a lot of overlap necessarily.
I think Sandeep suggested that we may just do it here in this particular W group, the work group 4 meeting. I think that's fine because most of you guys are here already, so that's great. All I have to do is ask Andrew and Denny's whether or not they could join once in a while.
Yeah, my only concern is that my concern is that so the calendar for Nephew as a whole isn't really nailed down as yet at all. But so it'd be nice if it could be sorry, this silly admin stuff. But if we have a scheduled meeting for, I think there was discussion maybe to have a separate Helm working group meeting. I don't know. So, but if there's an agreement here that everything should be built into one meeting, that if that makes sense.
So an agreement was reached. Yeah, for sure. So we can get, for example, if Sandeep can reach out to the Helm folks and start having them join this meeting occasionally, maybe not every week. then
Yes.
that's also beneficial for us to say that this is the Nephew SDK view. Do you want to add something into that? And then we modify with POC to make sure it works.
And one final one. It'd be really good if we could have the Red Hat guys join. That may or may not have any experience in with the Operator SDK tool. I think Tal, you came from that space.
The more community members, the better. Obviously.
Yeah.
So I have reached to Red Hat specifically on this topic, and I've yet to hear from them. But everybody, feel free to nag Vish and Bala until they
Okay, cool.
I also reached out to Red Hat already. Some time ago about this.
Yeah,
but
so
not necessarily to Vish and Bala. Yeah, through Vish and Bala, but even other people.
Yeah. I'm no longer at Red Hat, so I don't have all the access I used to have. My hand is up. I wanted to raise one more point before the end. So this is great. I'm really satisfied to see us moving along with this. I don't want us to forget the Python issue, right? Sagar did, I think, a really nice presentation of his experience so far, but all of us haven't really dug into it quite enough. I'm going to share another document soon with everybody about looking at our technology choices, and I don't mean to derail the discussion, right? I want us to progress, and the Python issue might be in the back burner for a while, but I want to keep it in our mind because as we're moving forward with Go, we do have other options on the table, and we're kind of moving with Go because that's what we have. I don't know if we really looked closely at the pros and cons of Python versus Go, the different SDKs and everything very carefully. I don't think we have enough data points to really say confidently that Operator SDK as it is right now is the way to go. I have a dream that the Operator SDK would also have first-class support for Python, just like it supports Helm, just like it supports Ansible, that it would allow some sort of plug-in ability to support Python scripts directly. So you could do something similar to what KOPF does, or maybe even use KOPF directly, but use it in the context of the Operator SDK with all its wrapping and everything, etc. So, but that's like a big thing. Like as Steven said when he started, we're not in the business here of creating a whole new SDK. That's kind of outside the scope of Nephio. But who knows? Maybe Red Hat would find that something interesting to invest in, right? But anyway, big topic. I'll share a document soon with everybody that will kind of hopefully put that in frame.
Yeah, that will be great. So that will be the topic to discuss further, right? Okay.
Thank you. It's good. It's good to see the team be informed. This is great. The focus subgroup is always great.
As we discussed, like maybe we can continue with this time meeting if everyone is okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And so if the contributors are mostly comfortable with this time, then let's do it this time.
Let's do it then, and we'll see going forward what we do. Right? Let's just continue now with this timing. Okay then.
Yeah, let me kick off a doc so people can sign up and add more areas if you want to. But it's as Sandeep and Liam said, it was already a lot of areas. So let's be a bit more focused actually, instead of doing more. Yeah. Thank you.
I think thank you very much for all the presentation today and discussion. So I think we are done for this today's meeting. Let's just discuss further thing which we have to discuss in this channel, right? And thank you.
Very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.